As we embark on the journey of personal growth, it is important to first start as philosophers and initiates, and eventually progress to masters. The acquisition of knowledge, experience, wisdom, and the development of our mind, body, and soul are all essential components of this journey. It involves the transition from thinking and doing to being and learning with our head, and then applying what we have learned with our hands, ultimately knowing it by heart. In the 1940s, a researcher from Yale University was particularly interested in studying the electromagnetic fields around living organisms. At that time, this was a relatively unexplored area of research. He began by studying the electromagnetic fields of various types of eggs, such as those of birds, reptiles, and amphibians. In all of his observations, he noticed that there was always a positive charge where the head was, and a negative charge where the tail was. This magnetic field was in the exact shape of the egg. The researcher then expanded his research to women with the propensity for uterine cancer. He began measuring their electromagnetic field around their body as well as around the organ. To his surprise, he noticed the same exact pattern in the electromagnetic field for uterine cancer as he had observed in the eggs. Every single woman that had a pattern in the field that he measured had a pattern in the physical body of cancer. However, there was a certain percentage of women who had some pattern in the field, but did not yet have the cancer in the body. Nevertheless, they eventually developed cancer. The researcher was looking at matter and pondering over what it was that he was measuring. What was the glow that he was observing? He came to realize that the matter was emitting a field, and it was actually the field that was creating the matter. In other words, change the field and you change the matter. According to the research, there are only two components that show how to change the field. To illustrate this, an experiment was conducted where a group of people who were great healers were asked to see vials of DNA wind or unwind in their mind. They did this over and over again, but nothing happened. Their intention did nothing to change the DNA. The next step was to ask the healers to create an elevated emotion by feeling gratitude and radiating that feeling of care and love into the field. They did this for a period of time, and again they checked the DNA. To their surprise, nothing happened. It was only when they were asked to see the DNA unwind with their intention and feel the emotions they would feel if it had already unwound that something extraordinary happened. Over 20% of the DNA unwound at a remote location. So what was happening here? Thought is the electrical charge in the quantum field, while feelings are the magnetic charge. How we think and feel broadcasts a field, and it is important to note that not just any field will do. It must be coherent. This is why we practice creating brain coherence and heart coherence. We actually measure these states and work towards achieving them. When we can change our energy levels in our minds, we can change resentment, frustration, or impatience and work towards a state of coherence. As humans, we experience a range of emotions, from joy to freedom to gratitude, and these emotions can impact our lives in various ways. But did you know that these emotions can also be measured? When the heart starts regulating, it begins to produce a measurable magnetic field that can be up to 3 meters wide. This energy is a frequency that can carry information, and this information is your thoughts and your intent. For instance, elevated emotional gratitude can carry the thought of your health, while the emotion of suffering cannot carry the thought of your health. This means that positive thoughts alone cannot help you if you're feeling miserable, as your mind and body are not in coherence. Hence, it's crucial to learn how to put these two coherent signatures together. That is, the thought sending the signal out, and the feeling drawing the event back. Coherence is a synchronization, and it's essential to maintain coherence between your thoughts and emotions to experience positive changes in your life. As an example, when people are under the gun of the fight-or-flight nervous system, they're living by the hormones of stress, and this arousal of chemicals drives the brain into a faster brain frequency called high beta brain waves. This state of arousal can lead to survival mode, where you're trying to control and predict everything in your life, from your boss to your coworkers to your finances, and more. However, the latest research in neuroplasticity tells us that we're not hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of our lives. Similarly, the latest research in epigenetics says that we're not doomed by our genes. Instead, we're marvels of adaptability and change. Hence, it's crucial to contemplate and think about who you want to be when you open your eyes, what it would be like to be happy, and what it would be like to live a new life. The frontal lobe of the brain looks out into the landscape of the entire brain, and it begins to call up different networks of neurons that are relevant to the question based on the knowledge or experiences that a person has. This process seamlessly pieces together a new understanding, which is called intention. The more you learn, the more new connections you add to your brain. And the act of mentally rehearsing installs the neurological hardware in your brain to look like it's already happened. The brain is typically a record of the past, but the moment you install the neurological hardware, it becomes a map to the future. This means that you start thinking and acting like a happy person, as you've installed the circuits that lead to positive changes in your life. Furthermore, it's crucial to feel gratitude, empowerment, and love for life, even before you experience wealth or health. This is because the body's unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the experience and the emotion created by thought alone. The human body is a complex organism with the ability to perceive and interact with the world around it. Our perception of the present moment is not only influenced by our environment, but also by the thoughts and emotions that we experience. The more intense the emotion, the more our attention is drawn to the thoughts we are thinking, which can result in changes to our biology. This realization led me to study neuroscience in order to better understand the internal processes involved in imagining and rehearsing. As I delved deeper into the study of neuroscience, I discovered that people who were able to fully immerse themselves in their thoughts and emotions often experienced long moments of timelessness, where they lost track of time and space. This fascinated me, and I began to explore how this process could be used to change one's biology from living in the past or present reality to living in the future present reality. I soon realized that in order to fully access the present moment and the quantum model of reality, one must first lose track of themselves and forget about their surroundings. This is the moment when we can begin to access other possibilities and change our reality. When we are truly present, we are no longer living in the familiar past or the predictable future. To achieve this state, we must get beyond our environment, our emotions, our pain, and our concept of linear time. Once we can transcend these limitations, we become pure consciousness and can connect to the consciousness of the field. This is the moment when we are no longer defined by our external factors such as our skin color, job title, or social status. We become pure consciousness, and we can begin to connect to something greater. I wrote a book about this experience and was fortunate enough to be featured in a documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? This documentary became an overnight sensation, and we were invited to attend conferences all over the world. During these conferences, people often asked three important questions. First, how do we do it? Second, how do our thoughts affect our body and our life? And third, what can we do to change our reality? In order to answer these questions, I began to teach Friday night and all-day Saturday events where I would explain brain science, brain waves, and the quantum model. I would show pictures of neurons connecting and disconnecting, explain what neural nets are, and how the brain works. I would teach people what focus and concentration look like and help them create a practice they could do at home. By following these principles, you can begin to change your personal reality. Your personality creates your reality, and in order to change it, you must change how you think, act, and feel. Our past experiences shape the way we think and feel. Our memories, which are a record of everything we have learned and experienced, dictate how our brain processes information. When we have an experience, our senses plug us into the external environment, and our brain processes all the sensory data we receive. This information rushes back to the brain, causing neurons to organize themselves into networks, creating specific patterns that reflect our interaction with the external environment. This organization of neurons creates a chemical reaction, known as a feeling or emotion. Experiences create long-term memories because they pattern or stamp specific networks of neurons into specific patterns. The emotional quotient helps us to remember events, and the end product of experience is the emotion it creates. When we learn something new, we create new neural connections, causing the number of connections in our brain to increase. If we don't review or repeat that information, the connections will begin to prune apart. Learning semantic information begins to organize circuitry in the brain, and experiences enrich the brain. The emotions that we experience as a result of an experience cause us to feel certain ways. For example, we can vividly remember where we were on 9/11 and what we were doing because of the emotional impact of that event. Most of our thoughts and feelings tend to be within the neural circuitry of the past and the emotions of the past chemically. Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. How we think and feel creates a state of being. If we combine a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, and we have a series of good thoughts that are connected to a series of good feelings, that cycle of thinking and feeling creates what's called an attitude. If we have a series of negative thoughts that are connected to some pretty bad feelings, we'll say we have a pretty bad attitude today. Our attitudes are just shortened states of being. We feel good in the morning, we feel bad in the afternoon. If we take an attitude, an attitude, an attitude, and begin to string attitudes together, we start to form what's called beliefs. A belief is just a thought we keep thinking over and over again until we hardwire it in our brain. Our beliefs are the lenses through which we view the world, and they dictate our actions and behaviors. Our past experiences shape the way we think and feel, and our beliefs shape our actions and behaviors. We can change our attitudes and beliefs by changing our thoughts and feelings. When we change the way we think and feel, we change our state of being. We become more positive, more motivated, and more productive. To change our attitudes and beliefs, we must first become aware of them. We must identify the thoughts and feelings that are creating our attitudes and beliefs. Once we have identified them, we can begin to challenge them. We can ask ourselves if these thoughts and feelings are serving us or holding us back. If they are holding us back, we can replace them with more positive thoughts and feelings. For example, if we have a belief that we are not good enough, we can challenge that belief by looking for evidence to the contrary. We can focus on our strengths and accomplishments and use them as evidence that we are good enough. We can also replace negative thoughts with positive affirmations. Instead of telling ourselves that we are not good enough, we can tell ourselves that we are capable and deserving of success. Changing our attitudes and beliefs takes time and effort, but it is possible. By becoming aware of our thoughts and feelings, we can begin to change our state of being. We can become more positive, more motivated, and more productive. We can achieve our goals and live a happier, more fulfilling life. Our beliefs are the foundation of our reality. They are formed based on past experiences and shape how we perceive and interact with the world around us. But what happens when our beliefs are challenged? It can be a jarring experience because our beliefs are tied to how we feel, and when our beliefs are challenged, it doesn't feel right. Research shows that when we have a thought, it creates a feeling, and that feeling leads to more thoughts. This cycle of thinking and feeling over time conditions the body to become the mind, forming habits and unconscious patterns of thought, behavior, and emotional reactions. In fact, by the time we reach 35 years old, 95% of who we are is a set of unconscious habituations. Attitudes are shortened states of being, and when combined, they form beliefs.